We've got a little bit of Wayfinder news for you guys here in this one. After the last global beta, they took a lot of feedback and they're incorporating a lot of things into the game that we can expect to see in early access. If you're not aware of what Wayfinder is, or if you're new to my channel and you're here for New World, I'll make sure to post a link down in the description below that will explain exactly what this game is. But don't worry, I will be covering New World and Wayfinder side by side. Wayfinder's dropping later this summer. It's just going to be another game that we're going to be covering here on the channel, and a game that I'll be streaming over on Twitch a lot as well. But there's some major changes coming to the game, and they're going to be here when early access hits. So after the last global beta, Airship Syndicate has taken a ton of player feedback, and they're incorporating that feedback into the game. They're making changes to combat progression, the ecosystem, the social systems, and a whole lot more. So the adjustments coming in for combat are really looking at the combat movement, the targeting system, and some defensive maneuvers. So during the beta test, you would oftentimes slide too far and you'd just fly past enemies. If you played in the beta, you would know, or if you've seen some of the beta footage, you've probably seen some of this happening. It made combat a little bit clunky. So what they're going to do to try to solve this problem is that forward movement is being disabled if the target is in active hit range. This is going to be done in order to avoid the issue of sliding past the enemy that you're wanting to hit. This should make combat a whole lot smoother and a whole lot better. In my opinion, I was really happy to see this change come into the game. They're also making some changes to the targeting system. During the beta, there were issues with landing attacks on your intended target. You would unintentionally switch targets and it would throw off the entire flow of combat at times. So due to this, there's changes coming in that's going to allow players to stick to their desired targets a lot more consistently. And along with this change, there's lock-on camera improvements that you can expect to see during Wayfinder early access. And then there was also this weird bug during the beta that you could lock onto dead enemies. This was not intentional and it has been fixed as well. If you played in the beta, you would know there were a lot of reports of the movement feeling a little bit off, or of the combat and the targeting and all of these things not really syncing up. So hopefully with combat movement and targeting combined, it's going to make for a much smoother play experience whenever we're fighting in Wayfinder. There's also some changes coming into defensive maneuvers. So previously players could only parry, block, and dodge at specific frames during the melee attacks. Well, now for early access, there's going to be significant improvements to this. There have been improvements made to the interrupt windows in order to improve the flexibility and responsiveness. There's also being work done in order to standardize the attack warning to make it easier to time interrupts across all enemy types. So during the beta, players could only parry, block, and dodge at specific frames during melee attacks, and that's being improved so that players can now parry, block, and dodge at any frame during the melee attack. This is going to make the action combat feel so much better and so much smoother. So now at any given time during combat, you're going to be able to parry, block, or dodge and move out of the way. It will be so much better instead of being locked into that animation and only being able to perform those actions during very specific frames. There's also some really big changes coming in for character progression, and these are probably some of the ones that I'm most excited about. So players are now going to be able to pick and choose the order of their abilities to unlock. So previously, all of your abilities, or at least in the betas, your abilities were unlocked in a very linear fashion. Now you're going to be able to pick and choose which abilities you want to unlock when. There's also some new goals for long-term progression for players to work towards. The developer stated the following in regards to long-term progression. They said, "We don't want you to feel like you're missing out when you're not playing your main character or your favorite weapon. So we're folding in on some of our planned systems for character progression and implementing them on an account level. This means more meaningful long-term progression beyond small stat boosts into full-blown abilities and power-ups you can earn at the account level via archetype and armory level progression items." We'll have more on this later. So I'm not really sure what the archetype and the armory level progression system is. I don't think anybody does at this point, but it sounds very interesting and I'm super excited. One of my concerns has been that the progression did feel a little bit off. So now hopefully this will be like more meaningful long-term progression for players, and it'll feel good and give us a goal to work towards, because that's really what you need in a game like this. We really need goals to work towards all the time whenever we're playing Wayfinder. So it is very good news to hear them working on this type of stuff, and this should be in, or hopefully will be in, whenever early access lands. Then we have some major changes coming in for the ecosystem. I have an entire video over Echo, so make sure to link that down in the description below if you want to know what this system is in the game. But the ecosystem is going to be simplified moving forward. The echoes are now going to be organized into very clear categories such as attack, defense, etc. There's also broader range of echoes being introduced to allow for more diverse builds. And they did say that they don't want these to be just stat sticks. They want them to be meaningful echoes that you can apply to your character. This to me is really good news. I'm a very OCD person. I really like for things to be very organized, and looking at the echo screen during the betas is just very jumbled up. You couldn't find what you were looking for. Oftentimes they were gathered into categories, but there wasn't really any nice, clean organization. So I really love the fact that they're going to be organized into these clear categories. So hopefully that'll make the gameplay experience a whole lot smoother, because echoes are such a massive part of the game. It is very frustrating to not really understand that system. So it's going to be nice to have it a little bit more simplified so players will be able to enjoy that a whole lot more. And then to wrap things up, they talked about a series of social changes, and these are quality of life improvements that are being implemented that's going to improve the entire chat system in Wayfinder. So you're not going to be placed in region chat by default, and there's also going to be localized chats implemented so you can now chat with other players that speak your desired language. Spam detection has also been improved, and you're going to be able to resize chat menu. So in the beta, if you've ever seen any footage or played in the beta yourself, perhaps, you would know that there was a ton of spam going on in global chat. It was an absolute mess. It was crazy. So this is also a good change, and I'm glad to see this come in. Looks like they're making a ton of good changes based on player feedback and some of the things they've seen in the beta, which is exactly what you'd want to see in a game after you have these betas come in. And I do think that they're hitting the nail on the head with a lot of these changes they're making. The combat changes are excellent. I think the changes to echoes is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm looking forward to that one. And overall, I'm just looking forward to hearing an announcement for when this game is going to be into early access. But whenever that day happens, I will make sure to keep you guys updated and posted on all the Wayfinder news. Anything major happens, we'll talk about it here on the channel. And of course, we will be covering this game whenever it launches or goes into early access later in the summer. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you like Wayfinder content, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate that. I will be posting and covering this game a lot here on the channel. And of course, we will still be doing New World. Don't worry, that's not going away, but we will be doing this game as well. I'm excited for it. I'm ready to play it, ready to jump into early access. And of course, we stream every Monday through Friday over at twitch.tv/BDLG. Right now, we're streaming a whole lot of New World with a few other things thrown in there every now and then. But whenever Wayfinder drops and it's in early access and available to stream, we will be doing that over there as well. So come check it out. I'd love to see you come hang out over there. But that's going to do it for this one, boys and girls. Thank you guys again. We'll see you in the next one.